up, everybody? Garrett back here. I want to talk about physical media today. What I want to talk about today is I want to talk about some movies that could have been lost gems and could have never been seen again, but they were rescued by some of these boutique labels. And that's what's so awesome about some of these boutique labels is they're preserving and saving some of these movies that have been lost forever. Now, again, being a huge horror fan, especially of the 80s, to see some of these movies getting the proper treatment they deserve now is just really cool. And that's what I get most excited for nowadays. You know, I have so much stuff in my collection. I'm always down to kind of get stuff that I thought I would never have in such great quality. And some of these movies are not for everybody. But if you are a horror fan and you haven't seen any of these 10 movies, and I highly recommend finally checking them out. All right, now the first one I want to talk about that was stuck. Like, these movies were stuck on VHS to maybe had never been seen again, but these companies do such a great job kind of finding these lost gems, restoring them, and bringing them back out in nice editions. Now, I'm going to give a shout out to both Imprint and Vinegar Syndrome on this one. This is one of the most in-demand movies for such a long time. You may love it, you may hate it, but that is the 80s Michael Mann, The Keep. This was one that it was a big lore about this movie when I was really getting into physical media, getting into horror. This was just impossible to find. Everybody wanted it. There was bootlegs everywhere of this movie. Now, this movie kind of was really cut up by the studio. When it was released, it was a flop. And the original version that he wanted has never been seen again and probably won't ever get seen again. But to finally get this on a nice edition was really cool and real important in the horror genre. Now you got this cool edition. I did a whole nother video talking about that humongous, unbelievable Imprint edition, which I don't think this movie could ever get an edition like that again. But that is Michael Mann's The Keep, and that's the first one I'm going to talk about on my list. All right, another lost 80s movie. This one was another one that was full of bootlegs. There was a lore behind this one. It was so bonkers. It was so crazy. You may see this on another video on my channel very soon. And that is The Spookies. And that was rescued by Vinegar Syndrome. So The Spookies, I think this is still available. Maybe not with a slipcover. I get definitely not with a slipcover. But maybe just the standard edition, which would look something like that. Or there's reversible art on this too, I think. That's the artwork you might see now, is this reversible, which is more of like the classic logo or VHS artwork is this one here. So this is a wild-ass movie. This was one that I was sought after and wanted for so damn long. So when this was announced, I was all about it because I had only had this on a bootleg and the quality was shit. I never owned it on VHS, but this is a wild one. This is bonkers. It's almost like the movie starts out at this kind of haunted mansion, then changes into something totally different because when it came to writers and directors, like, there was a mess here. There was different people doing things. They had to come back and do reshoots. It was an absolute mess, but messy in the best way. I love this kind of weird, off-the-wall, low-budget B horror. I just absolutely love it. And if you do too, definitely let me know if you're a fan of Spookies. And if not, like I said, I think you can probably still get that standard edition from Vinegar Syndrome. All right, well, speaking of Vinegar Syndrome, they're known for this stuff. They're prettying up these lost gems and bringing them back out on editions we never thought we would see. And this one is called Fatal Games. This was another one which was highly sought after when I was collecting DVD, because it was only a VHS and there was no DVD, so there was bootlegs of this flying around as well. But when they announced this was really important because people were really after this movie for a long time. And it's basically a slasher movie, as you can see that guy here. And he's picking off like these athletes, these almost like Olympic athletes at this academy. And again, if you like slasher movies, this is one to see. And these are all kind of slashers in their own way, most of them. Those are the ones that really do seem to get lost in the shuffle. But Fatal Games was put out by Vinegar Syndrome. I highly doubt the slipcover's available, but I hope maybe you guys can still get this on a standard edition. And again, speaking of Vinegar Syndrome, we're going to pull up Demon Wind. Look at this cool. This is a wild edition, and this slipcover is long gone. Now, as far as the movie, I think it might still be available in a standard form. And again, if it isn't, I apologize. But this was a cool movie, and this was actually the only time I'd ever seen this movie is when they released this edition. And I was excited because I like finding these lost gems that passed me by through all those years. And I had fun with this one. It was kind kind of like Evil Dead-ish a little bit. Well, I wouldn't say it's a slasher. If it is, it's more of a supernatural slasher. But Demon Wind was another one Vinegar Syndrome put out from the 80s that could have been lost forever. Now, while we're talking about Vinegar Syndrome, let's kind of finish this off. This is a partner label, DeGrosser Video, and that was a movie called Iced. This was one that you guys, if you saw this on the VHS shelf, let me see if that artwork's on here. Oh, I hope it is. Come on, please. It isn't. Damn it. The artwork, I'll put it in the corner here on the VHS tape, was one that I remember seeing on the shelf forever. And basically is a slasher movie that takes place at a ski resort. So the slasher on skis, that image has been embedded in my brain forever. Now, this is an interesting one because this DeGrosser Video line is taking these lost gems, horror gems, and bringing them back out in a nice fancy edition, something that is more attainable now. This one, unfortunately, could be sold out. It could be sold out now and back out of print, but the quality of this is not that great. It's not much different than a VHS quality, maybe a little bit better. This didn't have a DVD, but I guess the elements are just long gone on this one, and that's all they could work with. And that's kind of what they did with this DeGrosser Video, is they try to give you the best they can with the elements they have. So Iced is one that I would say try to see if it's streaming. It's probably one to check out, especially during this time of year. All right, I'm going to go to another studio that does a great job at this, and that is Arrow Video. Now, they haven't done a lot of these in a while, but before, they were putting out some of these lost slasher movies, and people were going nuts for it. So again, keeping it in the 80s, this was a cool one. I do think this, however, is out of print now, but this was one that was along the lines of everything else, where it was hanging around the bootleg tables because the only way you could get this was a very out-of-print VHS for a long, long time. And that's a movie called The Prey. So this was one that Arrow Video put out, and as soon as they did, and I saw the logo, I saw the name, I'm like, oh, I'd never seen this. I need to grab this. This was one that I used to see at the bootleg table all the time that I never, ever owned. So The Prey is one I do think, unfortunately, this might be long gone now. But let me know your thoughts on this one. This one, I think, you know, people could be hot and cold on The Prey. It's very different. It's very interesting, but let me know your thoughts on The Prey if you've seen that one. This one was a big one for me. This was a huge one. This was one of the biggest bootleg movies out there at the time of DVD. And when this was announced, I went absolutely batshit crazy. And that was The Mutilator, aka Fall Break. Very, very cool. I do hope this is still available. Like I said, the slipcover probably is not. But there's the alternate Fall Break logo there. Super, super cool movie. Just 80s slasher to the max. But I love this one. This was one that I had seen on VHS a long, long time ago, and I wanted it so bad for my collection. But it was, you couldn't get it. It was out of print. There was no DVD, and luckily Arrow saved the day. When this was announced, people went freaking crazy. This was an early release for them. Let me see what year this would have been for this release. 2016. So we're going almost 10 years since this thing's been released. And man, I love that movie. I have not seen the sequel yet, but it was awesome to kind of see that thing get rescued from the depths of VHS. All right, I have 3 more to talk about here. The first one I'm going to talk about is going to be Edge of the Axe. This is another Arrow Video joint. Look at that. Straight slasher movie. I think it's from Spain. But this was one where the VHS tape was like very sought after. This image has been embedded in my brain since I was a little kid at the video store. I do know the slipcover's at least sold out with this. As far as if the movie isn't, I'm not 100% sure. But this was an Arrow Video release. It was a little bit of an earlier release too. I think this had like multiple slips. I think you could have got like a website exclusive or something like that, I believe. But this is a cool ass movie. And they gave you this cool like VHS slipcover, which is pretty damn cool. But again, standard slasher, kind of like what I said with The Mutilator. If you like slasher movies, you definitely want to check out Edge of the Axe. All right, this next one is a Vestron release, and it's actually pretty damn new. And that is Hider in the House. When this was announced, I was like all stoked for it. People were like, why are you so stoked for Hider in the House? I said, because it is a movie that has been lost on VHS for so long, and I never knew or thought we'd ever see it again. So that's what I get excited for now, guys. I can only have Halloween so many times in my collection. At this point, it's like, give me the stuff that I haven't been able to see in years. Again, is this a masterpiece? No. Is it straight horror? No, it's creepy. It's more of like a thriller. There's horror elements in here. But man, you take Gary Busey and make him some kind of sick, sadistic stalker type character. It is scary enough. But I was excited for this. I really, really was. And it's not the greatest movie, but it's one that we needed as horror fans, ones that we've wanted as horror fans. And that's what I'm most interested in right now when it comes to modern physical media. Yeah, I'm buying some stuff, but these are the things I want. And guys, the last one I'm going to talk about is from the 90s. All these were 80s movies. This one's from the 90s. Another Vinegar Syndrome joint. And that is a movie called Blood Games. It's got a double-sided slipcover. Again, I'm assuming the slip is long out of print. The movie, I think it's still available. I could be wrong, but check this image out here. Very, very cool. It's about these chicks that are softball players, and they kind of get stranded, and all these crazed fans of the opposite team are gonna, torment them and torture them. It's a little bit of a heavy watch, to be honest with you. So if you don't like a lot of that like revenge thriller type stuff, exploitation, this might not be the jam for you, but this is one that everybody talked about back in the day, and it was unavailable for a long ass time until Vinegar Syndrome put this cool edition out. And man, I just love the boutique labels and them doing this stuff. That is what I love about the boutiques. I mean, that's what Anchor Bay was doing back in the DVD days, taking these lost horror movies and bringing them to a new audience. And I think that's what I want more of this year coming in 2026, is I want some of these labels to start bringing us the stuff that's been lost forever. And, I'm going to give a shout out to Red Shirt Pictures. I mean, some of these movies weren't stuck on VHS, but there's a lot of these movies. Hunter's Blood, that was stuck on VHS. They're bringing out things like Fright Night 2, the Prom Night sequels. Like, these are all movies that have been stuck in formats like DVD and VHS that excites me. And I'm super stoked to kind of see what's to come from some of these labels. I'm just kind of tired of the rehash. I don't care if I'm getting the same movie over and over again on a steelbook. Like, I've got the movie, I've got the format. Just give me something new. And that's why I found myself going kind of back in time and buying a lot of old DVDs and VHS and stuff like that. But man, I like doing this kind of stuff. I love talking about this. Let me know if I uncovered any movie that you just haven't seen from this list, or maybe you didn't even know had a new release and it was still stuck on VHS. But I want to do a follow-up video talking about movies that are still stuck on VHS, horror movies that are still stuck on VHS that I would love to see some of these companies get their hands on. Now, guys, I hope you dug this one. This is Garrett at Born2beRad. Make sure to like, subscribe, hype this video. It definitely helps the channel break out to more like-minded people who like this stuff. So when we go live, we'll have a huge crowd there to discuss all this rad stuff. Now, guys, thank you again for checking this out. And like always, stay